Hi, Ange. Just before we start, just a squad update, if you would, for this game. Obviously, we saw Jota back in the training field this morning.
Yeah, everyone got through sort of Wednesday night, no problems, and then Tuesday night, sorry, and then Jota's trained all week. Carl's back in training. Stephen Welsh is training. Apart from Callum, everyone else is fit in terms of full training. Obviously, match fitness wise, there's a few of those guys who are not ready to start. But in terms of availability, apart from Callum, everyone's ready to go.
Just on the game, I suppose on midweek, you're obviously coming to the end of this European cycle. It means that a less congested fixture card come after the World Cup. I just wonder, is that you think your squad could then be, even stronger domestically afterwards? After the less travelling and the more focus on domestic matters.
Well, yeah. I mean, I still think it's going to be a little bit congested anyway. I mean, we've still got cup games to play, and I think there's a rescheduled fixture that's in there as well against Livingston. But like we've got through this period so far, not too bad. We've still got 5 games before the break, obviously. But as I said, I've rotated the team a fair bit through this process so that we can manage being in the different competitions, and the fact that we've got the majority of the group now sort of healthy and available is good for us. But we still got to navigate these 5 games, and then look, after the break, obviously there's still a fair bit of the season to go in terms of the league and both cup competitions. So we've got to be ready for that. But it's still about sort of making sure we finish this first section off as strong as we possibly can.
Just on the game on Sunday, I suppose you don't need any reminder about the threats of Livingston and the result at the weekend. What are you expecting from this one?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game. It always is, particularly at their place. Last year we kind of went there early in the season and didn't play well, and we paid the price. But our second trip there we performed a lot better, and we got it was a strong performance and got the result. But they're a hard-working team. They're really hard to beat, particularly at home, and for us that's the challenge that's before us. But our form home and away in the league's been pretty consistent, and our results certainly show that. And we've got to play well on the weekend and try and overcome them.
Hi, I was just talking about Livingston there. What specific threats did they pose that perhaps other teams don't? We saw them last week have a very disciplined performance defensively at Ibrox. Is that one of their main strengths? Is it their physicality, or is it just how good they can be at home? What do you see specifically in Livingston?
Yeah, look, I think it's a combination of things. I think they're a really hard-working side, which makes them hard to overcome. I think similar traits to us in that respect, because we're a hard-working side as well. It's not the game tends to be played like I said, whether that's physically or just with sheer work rate. I think they provide that, and at home particularly, obviously with the pitch as well, it's something that they're more comfortable in, and they're the challenges you've got to overcome. But as I said, again, for us, what's more important is what we can do, the threats we pose and the football we play. Within that context, we know that if we play well, we'll be hard to stop.
Is that the message you give to your players, that just continue playing your football? Because that is always what you tell us, just continue playing yourself up. You never really change. Or do you have to, give them a little bit of added words, tell them that it's going to be a bit more of a battle this one away to Livingston?
No, mate, I don't lie to you and I don't lie to the players. What I say is what I say. We've got to play our football, because within our football, all those things are there. It's whatever the challenge is. We're not going to overcome it by changing our approach. That's not going to work for us. What works for us is, as I said, we have some basic fundamentals that we want to lean on, and that is, working hard, trying to dominate the game in possession and being really aggressive without the ball. And when we do those things, irrespective of the opposition, home or away, we know we're a tough team to beat, and that's what we've got to deliver on the weekend.
Hi, Ange. Just want to ask you about Davy Martindale. He was talking this morning about how much he really enjoys going up against the likes of yourself as a manager and the top teams generally in the division. But he also mentioned that there's probably more of a tactical battle or element that goes into these games that maybe some people don't realise. Obviously, from his standpoint, that will be different from how you approach this game. But I just wondered what you thought about those comments and how that might affect going into a game when you know you're going up against a team like Livingston.
Yeah, look, I mean, I can't speak on David's behalf, but I think that's part of management. Is that I often hear managers here talking about playing the top sides and usually the top two sides, and they just put them in as one. But I think you'd have to approach both those games a little bit differently if you really want to be successful. And I think the one thing I've noticed about Livingston is that they do put a lot of sort of research and thought into who they're playing and taking the approach that affects them the most. And we're no different. I mean, like I said, the one thing we always do is respect every opponent, irrespective of sort of their form or position on the ladder or whatever other sort of conditions arise. We analyse them all. We understand what their potential strengths are, areas that we can exploit, and within that context, it doesn't change the way we approach the game, but we certainly address those kind of things with our players and the way we approach the game. I think football is like that these days. You got so many tools that there's really no excuse for teams not doing their homework and managers not coming up with tactical plans or putting in the research on how to stop any opposition.
And just a word on your players and your season so far. I guess we can easily speak about the physical aspect of a busy schedule, but the mental aspect of it as well. So many games thick and fast. Does that make, like last weekend's result and performance in a very busy game against Hearts, all the more pleasing when your team show the mental strength to come through games like that?
Yeah, I think it's important. Like you said, I mean, there's a physical toll, but there's also the fact that you've got to be up for a game every 3 or 4 days. And I think what's helped us is that we have been able to sort of rotate the team a little bit, which means guys coming in are kind of have that sort of freshness anyway, in terms of they want to perform well. This is their opportunity. So I think that's helped us through this period. I mean, I was always conscious of the fact that there was no chance we would get through this schedule of games with just relying on a core group of players. We would have got a lot more injuries, and I think our performances, even if we didn't get injuries, would have sort of tailed off because just the general fatigue, mental and physical, that the players would have faced. But the fact that we've made sort of 4 or 5 changes every game means that we've got new energy coming in, which means guys, even if they are maybe a little bit sort of fatigued, we'll get energy from the guys coming in, and within that context, we're resting a few as well. So I think that's helped us maintain. Like I said, we've had some really strong performances in this sort of cluster of games, but there's been some real challenging ones. Like I said, Hearts last week, St Johnstone last minute, where we've had to work awfully hard as well. And I don't think we would have found that energy and that commitment if we kind of were playing with the same sort of group of players through the whole bit.
And just on that kind of subject, I don't know if it was around about this time last year that you got a kind of a run of injuries. I know you had maybe a smaller squad as well, but is that the fact that it's only Callum that's out now, and that was I think a tackle? Does that show that players again are getting used to the demands that you've put on them as well, and kind of building themselves up as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit of that for sure. I always felt last year was going to be really challenging because it's not just the way we play our football; it's the way we train as well. It's obviously very intense, and for a lot of the players, you could tell that just even sort of getting to the levels of intensity of training was going to be a challenge for them. So, as you said, this time last year, leading into sort of this period, we were almost down to the bare bones in terms of players. We'd lost quite a few, and I think the fact that the players who have remained have obviously, got, their bodies have adjusted to the kind of training and football we want to play, I think we've also added to the squad with that knowledge as well. And I think we've got a much stronger squad of players this year that we can sort of call upon, so that we're not again relying on, last year, likes of, I don't know, it was 𝗙𝗂𝗹𝗹 around this time, Jota, I think 𝗰𝗲𝗋, all got really bad hamstring injuries, which kept them out for quite a long time because of just the pure accumulation of games. And we haven't had to do that for the most part this year, which I think, so, it's a combination of a stronger squad and players adjusting to the levels.
Just ask you, obviously, the last time you went to Livingston, it'd been a long time since Celtic had won there, and it felt like a big win. Just the fans' reaction as well on the day, and the way that the players approached the start of the game, it was very intense from the start. Does it feel like when you go there, it is one of the toughest tests, that it is a big challenge, that everything around it, and that memory of last season can help that process as well?
Yeah, look, it doesn't make the challenge any easier because you have won there before. But I think what we showed, because it wasn't just the fact that we won the game, I thought we played really well on the day. What it also shows is that it's not a challenge that's insurmountable either, which I think it was beginning to feel like, because we hadn't won there for a while, that somehow the only way you could win there was just to go there and just try and manage to get a win any old way and get out of there. Where I think sometimes that becomes a prevailing attitude when you haven't had success, at a certain venue or a certain level. That could be even like for us, the Champions League, is that you think, we just need a win and everything will be all right. But I think what we showed last year is that you can actually play good football, or play the kind of football we want, perform well and get a win. So, but the fact that we did that last year doesn't mean automatically it's going to roll out this year. We've got to make sure that we're ready for it, we're up for the game like we were last year, and expecting a tough challenge, and find a way to get to overcome it.
Hi Ange, I know you've played in the plastic pitch in a couple of stadiums several times before, but before this game, does that alter your thinking in terms of the team that you'll pick and just preparation around the game as well?
Not to a great extent. I mean, obviously we've got an artificial pitch at Livingston, so we'll have a session on that tomorrow, which is probably the only time of the year we kind of train on that, is before, if we're going to play a game on the artificial. Not that it's exactly the same, but it just gives the players a sort of a taste of what it could be like. And but aside from that, nothing really changes for us in terms of team selection and the way we sort of approach the game. It remains the same. The team selection for Sunday will be around the team that I think will be able to get the job done. It's not picking a team for a surface. It's picking a team that I think is going to be up for the challenge of taking on a really difficult opponent, and making sure we perform at our levels.
Where do you stand yourself just on the issue of artificial pitches and top flight football, and the advantage that it gives to the teams that are used to playing on it all the time?
Yeah, I think I've said it before. I don't think I just don't like them, not because of the advantage it gives. I just think it alters the game itself, and I much prefer to play on natural turf. I think it's a better game of football, better spectacle, and I think players feel more comfortable on it. So it's not about the advantage that other teams get. It's just my preference. I think I understand why they're there, and I understand why clubs, some clubs prefer to go that way, but I think clubs here in Scotland have proven they can put up some world-class pitches. When we played at Motherwell and even St Johnson, and the pitches were great, and it doesn't mean that we have more of an advantage just because it's a turf pitch. I think I just think it's a better spectacle and a better game. But I understand the reasons that the clubs do it. But I know in Holland now they've brought in the rule that they're going to be phased out by and they were a country that went very big on artificial pitches, because of the weather and because of the advantages of them. But I think they've found that at top level, it's not the same game, and they've decided that they're going to change it.
With the World Cup coming up soon, and some players like Jota, for example, right on the verge of the national squad, have you been using the prospect of playing in the World Cup in Qatar as a motivator for some of the players to push on until the break?
No, not really. I mean, I've often said, like, the motivation for them is to, every time they pull on that shirt and play on the weekend, that should be enough. Everything else comes from that, whether that's national team ambitions or whatever other ambitions they have. I think when you start thinking about these other things, if you need something extra to motivate yourself apart from representing this club, then you're probably not going to be successful here. So, and I think the boys have been really good at that. Whether it's Jota or the other lads who are in contention. I'm sure their only thought is about playing their best football they can for this football club, and they understand that if that happens, then all these other things will come along. But you shouldn't need extra motivation than walking out to 60,000 here on game day. I think that should be more than enough for anybody.
I was just wondering, what are the changes in preparation when you're playing in the Scottish Premiership compared to when you're playing in the Champions League?
None. Again, I think our approach has been that you've got to respect every opponent the same way. If we kind of changed our approach just because we were playing in the Champions League than we were in the league, then I'd be asking questions as to why we're selling ourselves short. We want to be the best team we can be, and to do that, you've got to treat every opponent with equal respect. You've got to treat every game with equal respect. You've got to treat every competition with equal respect. And so our preparations are always the same. We put as much scouting and analysis into every opponent. We prepare the team as if they're going to play. My thing is that the most important game for us for the whole season is the next one. So that's the attitude we've taken, and that's why I think we've been successful so far in navigating all the games we've had, is that the players embrace the fact that the next game is the most important.